subject of adl in Islam. And this is one of the most important missions of the Prophet is to establish justice, not just be internally just. So one of the things we notice with those who would like to do injustice is that they don't really find so much if a person is just, but then by himself. He's a righteous person out on a case. And if it's some sort of vague sense of more or less not clear righteousness amongst the people, that does not really present a problem. What I mean by that is the tyrants would like to be able to walk around, they go to the market, go on the streets, buy a house, things like that. That they're not robbed, they're not killed, they're not this, they're not that, they're not covered. So they don't want a complete anarchy, which the absence of justice would be anarchy. What they would like to do is keep sort of a framework, and then they are the ones who get to go beyond that framework. So it's very important for other people to have a weak understanding of justice, not be completely unjust. So what they like is for the Amma to be confused about it. They know that it cannot disappear in its entirety. Human beings are just, it's so hardwired into us that we have a sense of what we call reciprocity, meaning that if you do something for me, then I should do something for you. You have that sort of sense. And this sort of justice also, for whatever reason, is tied very much to our reason. We think that the world should be somehow just. Now, this is not so much connected with mathematical reasoning, but it's connected with how we as human beings see the world. It's connected with Akla, which is Akla is different than mathematical reasoning. So maybe mathematically I can say that why should anybody care? You know, you give me something, okay, it's mine, put it in my pocket. You know? But even animals have a sense of justice. They don't necessarily do justice, but they have a sense of justice. In animal, let's say, if an animal goes hunting, sometimes these animals they hunt, right? Now he hunts and he catches something. We used to watch these like nature programs or whatever, and the animals and this and that. Our parents sometimes we let us watch anything on TV. You could watch nature, but we used to watch those that show. With Marlon Perkins, Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom. Yeah. So that was always so. So Marlon Perkins would go over and he would watch some different animals there. The other David Attenborough and people like that. And so you would see that if an animal caught that animal, if an animal went hunting and didn't catch anything, the animal would just retire for the night and try again another day, but it wouldn't be upset by it. But if it succeeded in the hunt and then someone else stole it, it would be like it would feel that injustice had been done to them, even though it was an animal. But what's the difference between I run after and I try to reach the goat or whatever and I don't get it? And I went and I got it, and then it got stolen. From like numbers and cents should be the same. I went and I caught something and I didn't get another. I almost caught something and I didn't get it. So that's the parts like food in your belly is the same. But when they succeeded and it was taken from them unjustly, they felt angry with this, that this was not fair. And then they even did an experiment. They got some monkeys, right? And they had that if you know, sometimes they teach them to press lights or whatever it is, things like that. So if you press the lights, we're going to give you a prize, and we're going to give you a prize. So one month you press the lights, and they give him a cucumber. He's like, okay, don't up, eat this cucumber. The next one does the same thing, and they give him a grape. Then the other one, so let's try it again. Maybe they made a mistake. Presses his thing, they give him a cucumber. The next one does it, gets a drink. He's like, listen, this is so. So he took his cucumber and he threw it back at Azuki. He didn't make sense because he's like, no, I did the same work. and the other monkey did the same work, then no, the prize has to be of equal value. The grape is the better value. We both get grapes, we both get cucumbers, which can't be me a lesser prize when you give to the other person. So this is an animal. They understood the concept that there's justice and injustice. Now, they're not going to have the higher levels of human beings, you know. But the concept that was there is very much attached to us, like the offer that Allah, the reason that Allah put us there. Because why didn't you stay? Nice, sounds good, grateful. Here's the other guy. Because he was happy with the power of justice. But you can see that there is that strong sense, no, that there should be each thing should get what it deserves. So the tyrants, they don't want you to have no sense. They want that sense to be meek. They don't want it to be the top down. They don't want it to be attached to a law. So let's take a look at what, so that we can have a better sense, so that we can decipher this. Let's take a look at what the word justice means. Please go, Solomon. How many times this and justice are used together? Like in this ayah which we just read. First they use this for justice, then they use I for justice. So they're usually used together. There's a few other ones. Haq, giving someone their haq, like giving them their justice. I'll give you an example of that. Yeah. Simplicity. Sometimes a few other words have been used in different places. Sometimes we have, we said, I think another one place, so that's stuff like that, which is kind of similar in that it means balance. Or sometimes it means like they say that Allah is tawala. What does that mean? Because when there's a king, and when like when you shake his throne and exactly you're not a human king, you say they shook the throne of the king, meaning his position is not stable, it's unbalanced. He's a little too much this way, and he shouldn't be that good. But when he's resting, it's when everything is in its proper place. When it's talking about the brothers, that they said, well, outside of them, that the one in the middle. Why? This is the most balanced. He may have been the oldest, he may have been the youngest, but he was balanced logically. He was most reasonable and most thoughtful. So Allah said that because the most balanced one. So we see that this word justice is coming in the meaning usually of balance, meaning not taking anything out of its proper place, putting everything into its proper place. Okay. Now, we also can, when we want to look at the word, we look at what Allah uses as the sort of on the opposite side to get the meaning for ourselves. Usually, the other word that's being used for the other way are words like zul, which is darkness. Right? That's it. Someone who minds away, so the mind, meaning he went to darkness. It also the meaning of that leaving that. So like truth is associated with light. Why? Because you can see where everything is, so you know what the truth is. Because they're always bright. Whereas you turn off the lights, like people were looking into things. So the mind might make mistakes. Okay. Another word which is used is sometimes jumor. Another one which we have is interesting, which is three words with kind of similar meanings. One is fajr, like you say fujur, right? Or taqiyya, which is and balha. Okay. All of these words sometimes in the same ayah describing the same people. Or like one ayah down that was one ayah that was floods and talking. A few later down, let's say that he was a right? Talk about fear around. Sometimes it calls it like talking. Sometimes it calls it on Torah. Sometimes it calls it the items in Allah that one of these words, right? One was a fajiri, it's like that. When we know what fajr, right? What is it? Fajr has been the light splits. So the sky opens and the light comes through, right? We also say this like ibtaba for like this word baba, meaning I'm seeking something, meaning I'm going forward. But when we look at it, really what it is coming out of its place. So when talking about Hasrat Nu, it says when the water came too much. Talking about the flood of because it jumped, because normally the water is either in a well or it's in a river, and it jumps the banks of the river. This Allah described as water went too far. It went out of its limits. So all of these words are when a person or a thing goes past the limits that it has. So Allah uses this to describe these fujar and these kuffar, that's Tuhad and Bogad and things. Why? They keep this sort of head count, this ship of the framework of justice, and then they go beyond that. So someone like Pharaoh, he's keeping the framework of there's supposed to be a ruler, you're supposed to come and your request, you're supposed to talk to him, and he's supposed to make the just decision for his people. We see that this is how the king was acting in the time of Hazrat Yusuf, right? The people came to Yusuf with came to the king with an issue. The king thought about it and then gave the wise decision. So this was the position. So he kept the position, but then he went over and said, I'm not a problem. He went beyond the mandate that Allah had given him, which is to protect the people, to help the people, to take care of their affairs. He went beyond the boundaries that Allah had given. So all of these people who are, Kitab and Fujani and these people, why? Because they go beyond what Allah has said. So this is the people are going beyond. And now Allah has said, no. Prophets, their job is to establish justice. But let's look a few more ayats and see if we can get a little bit more meaning out of this. We have another one which is interesting, very nice ayat, and it's giving us a lot of meaning from it. Talking about the people who kill an animal in Hajj, right? So I go and I'm supposed to go on Hajj. I'm in Ihram and I see a mountain goat or something and I shoot it out and I kill it. So okay, what can we do? So Allah gives us that. What's that ilaj of the person who does this? Even if you kill some animal, maybe a bird, maybe a goat, maybe I don't know, a bigger animal, something like that. And then Allah says, "But jaza that the jaza, the punishment of Uquba is what he killed. So from the cattle. So he kills an animal. You have to get a cattle or a tame animal similar to that. So he has to buy it now. So let's say he shot a goat, then he should a wild goat, he should get a real goat and right? Yeah, so two wise men from you, they're the ones who make the hukum of what type of animal it is. So I can't go over and I kill something big and then I'm like, okay, well, let me buy a chicken and to make up for the buffalo. No, then so I would have to say, no, this is the chicken. We have maybe you kill the wild chicken, so we get a chicken, can't you? Well, do I argument with the American gets he'll give this as a gift whenever we reach the Kaaba. Our kafara ta'amul masakin al adlin that so or he can't pay if he doesn't have money. So then he can't find an animal, he goes and he gives the sitina miskin. gives 64, or he doesn't have money and he does the same thing in the fast. So he gives it meaning equal, meaning he put like basically why it's not because he put back what was missing. Okay. Now it's important for the prophets who said that they established justice. So sometimes the Torah don't mind the existence of a few just people, especially if they keep their mouths shut and just kind of have as some sort of role model or something like that. But the prophets establish justice, meaning they bring it up and begin enforcing this justice. It also brings up, when you're talking about this concept of justice, the justice of Allah. One of the things we see with people who are trying to have tyrannical systems is they want people to be confused on the issue of the justice of Allah. It's extremely important to not be confused on that issue. Now, why is it? And then sometimes they use ayah of Quran and that and the other, not just what everybody wants. I've noticed one of the things they like to do is when they become very materialistic, is they'll say that it's a law-based system. If I'm richer than you, it's because I just got lucky. You know? They're like that. Somehow you feel that way. It's a lottery thing or something like that. Usually they're doing something systematic, but then how they hide it is after they win. By breaking the game, they'll come up with it. It's just a good luck. You had been smart, or you had been lucky, you would be rich too. So they try to tie it with that. Whereas Islam has everything is specific. All these luck-based things and chance and all of that is not there. But also, Allah does not work that way. That Allah's system is obvious. It's clear. It's not luck-based. It's not so unreasonable that we can't even understand. We might not know, but it's not that we can't understand. That's what they want to understand. No, they say that. What is it? That's the ayah that for us. That they are asked about what they would be is not asked. And they say this means that, and Allah can do whatever He wants. So let's say they say if they have the question that they say is it just because Allah did it, or does Allah only do justice? They say, no, it's justice because Allah did it. So, like they say that if Allah took Prophet Muhammad and put him in the hellfire, took out now and put him in Nar, put him in Jannah, then that would be justice because Allah, right? That's what he wants. Whereas we say, no, we are justice, and Allah wouldn't take the Prophet and put him in hellfire. They're like, He wouldn't do that, but if He did, it would be okay. They say, no, He keeps His promises, but He can do injustice. No. And why? We have multiple issues with this line of thinking, but first we'll go to the reasonable. Justice in itself is a lack. Injustice in itself is a lack, and justice in itself is completion. And Allah does everything completion and perfection and doesn't do anything which is incompletion and imperfection. And this is in multiple ways. One is that what we said was injustice. You know, we talked about this a lot other times. When you're going too far one way and too far the other way, it means that you're out of place. This is a type of weakness, and your throne becomes shaky. You have to hit some ice and stuff. Meaning that you got on your place. That's attributing a weak and a bad character to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not very deep. When a person does injustice, it's why? Because they can't reach, they're so weak that they can't achieve what they want through power. So they have to go through the root of injustice. And if Allah is free of need and Allah can give what He wants and give whatever He wants, then why would He? Because you have to have a need. Meaning, like, if I don't have a car, mother has a car, and I look at his car and I try to buy it, it says, no, you don't have enough money, so I get it back and stick out the back and I steal it. Why? Because if I try to steal it in his face, he'd beat me up. If I try to pay for it, I don't have the money. So finally, I sneak out the back and jump through the window and I steal it. Why? because I couldn't achieve what I wanted through a normal means. So this is showing that to do it justice first takes those other steps. Means there's a lack. Also, because justice is putting things in its place, to do the injustice, you have to take it out of its place. What now means ascribing jahl and foolishness to Allah. You see, you try to open up one door of this and you break down the whole thing, it now creates other issues similar to the whole like son of God issue where father, and as soon as you say son, why can't he have a father? He does that. Why can't he have uncles and aunts? Why can't he have this and that? The other? Why doesn't it, if you open up all kind of logical paradoxes when you say that Allah can do injustice? Any of the, and it's not just injustice, any of the things which could be ascribed as negative are far from blindness, ignorance, any of this fact. So, I can agree with so that means that he can, not know something because of his power. No. That doesn't, those all open up these logical paradoxes. These things cannot be. Meaning that if something's a square, then it's not a circle. It can't be both at the same time because the definition of the word square is X, Y, Z. The definition of the word Allah, the creator, all powerful, is that it's not weak and unjust and blind and ignorant and having all of these holes. As soon as you do that, then it turns into like this pagan gods and all that, like Krishna and this kind of this one is fake, that one and this one. So you open up all of these holes because that's a weakness. So Allah cannot do it. Even not Allah cannot do injustice. We never say that. Injustice cannot be ascribed to Allah for any of these imperfections. And imperfection cannot be ascribed to Allah. Every perfection is automatically ascribed to Allah. And He is the source of all perfection. So now it is the duty and the job of the prophets to establish justice, not just deed. Sometimes they say, no, your job is as a prophet is to just establish the religion, right? You don't have to do right. Like going in, doing things is not your job. You're just supposed to tell us what it is, and you can go and take a backseat. Some people try to make this kind of play. Whereas we say that no, the prophet, part of his job is to, we just saw that Yahweh made that nas. We saw it very interesting how that ayah, which we were reading about, one is to be established as a ruler in the earth. So this is one job. We haven't got to that message yet, but this is one job. Is the khilafat and Imam, that this is something which Allah has given to the prophets and the other hujjahs. And part of that is to rule with justice. Not just to inform the people and let the people go and do whatever they want. Let's read a few hadiths trying to make this point that the Imams is not just Sheikh Faheem. Thinking this, of course, according to logic, it would make sense. But in the Quran, we'll also get some reinforcement. قال أمير المؤمنين رحم الله امرأ أحيا حقا. May Allah have mercy on the man who makes alive truth. وأمات باطلا, and he crushed or destroyed something which is batil. وَدَحَسَ جُورًا, and he crushed a oppression. وَأَقَامَ, and established a justice. So if a person does that, this is someone who is blessed by Allah. قال Imam Husayn alayhi salam. He's no salam. فدعوني by my life. ما إمام إلا حاكما بكتاب. There, that Imam isn't anything except that the ruling of the book. God in my establishing justice, Da'ina bidin al-haq, and he is ruling by the religion of truth. حاسب نفسه على ذات الله, and he is keeping him account of himself before Allah. What's very interesting is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In our Aqidah, he is always a prophet. He might not inform the people, so he is not telling the other people that I'm a prophet, but he's a prophet for her. He's Masul from her. It's always a prophet. It's not that he becomes a prophet later, like Allah says, he's righteous and he's a prophet. No, he's always a prophet. When it's time, he gets his mission. And we can see this from Musa and Isa and all of the other prophets that it's not that they didn't know and that they said, no, they get order to do at some times. Allah gives them the order. Okay, now at some point, but they're always a prophet. Before he went on this mission and began informing them about Islam and that he's a prophet, there was an agreement called Hilful Fuhul, the pledge of righteousness, that the Bani Hashim and some other tribes agreed to uphold the rights of the oppressed. Because in their system, they have that if you have some big chief backing you, some big tribal chief backing you, you could get your right. If you didn't have one, you were a slave, you were poor, you were this, your tribe died off, you were a foreigner, you had no rights. Anybody could rob you, steal, this, that, and the other, and nobody would stand up for you. And someone started complaining that you guys are supposed to be the Sahib of the Kaaba, and you're supposed to be the sons of Ismail, and you're letting people get oppressed in your midst. So the Bani Hashim and some other tribes said, well, we're going to support Imam in our society. And he said, if I was called to that again in the time of my prophecy, I would also put my hand and promise to help the oppressed. So showing that this concept of standing up for the oppressed is an eternal concept, which is not necessarily that, oh, well, if we're beginning, then we're going to stand up for that. But if we're not beginning, it's not. No, everybody, it's a human duty, not a Muslim duty or Christian duty. As a human duty is that we don't oppress and we also stand up for the oppressor. Please go, Sallallahu Allah. We have another beautiful hadith. This one is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Please give us Allah. He says, be aware of being the friends with people who are disobedient to Allah. And aids to those who are doing pressure. So the Imam is warning us that two things you're not supposed to do is be the companion, the road buddy of a person who's disobedient to Allah, or to be a person who is oppressing others. And I'm his friend. He's oppressing others. I just told him the car. I just told him the calculator tank to go and oppress the other people, but I didn't do it. No, the woman doesn't do that. That was one of the things that I saw was very interesting. In the, we had like Seattle to Arcula coming into Tashayla. And they started, and this is from the Imams. When they did that, first they did like all the people who actually did the evil deeds. But then they started, I think the people who set up the situation that it could be done. Any person who aided, put it into enemies, disrespected the haq of the Imam, so that now people felt more bold to go forward. All of these people got as a lot of person, them as well. Not just the Sahib was safe. the person who did this, you know, not just the person who did they killed the captain of Sonic. All of the people got destroyed. So they died not just the people who ate it and abetted generation and generation back. Then it started cursing the people who did any sort of aid. Meaning, once they just settled the situation, and then it was like they tied the horses, they gave them the sword, they gave them water, they encouraged them. They all got first as well. And then the most important one. They just heard about it and they were okay with it. Not they were happy. Sometimes we translate it wrong. Right? The act doesn't mean they were happy. It didn't bother them. They heard about the question and they were upset. This got them included with the killers. So we can know how important it is to be standing up for the oppressed and preventing that no sort of oppression can happen in front of them. We have the short part of speech of which is Sheikh Faheem, where he's complaining about the oppression that is done to him. We don't have time to do the Arabic, so I'll just give you the translation. And then he says, and if it were not that we didn't have people who were present and those who could help us. I mean, he's talking about now. Now there were people who were helping them and aiding them in taking his right. Because before they didn't help him. Once they came and they said they would help him, he had no choice. And Allah had not taken on the ulama, those who know, that you cannot be settled with the gluttony of the tyrants. You can't be fooled with it, just like he said. Or the hunger of the oppressed. So one person is eating up everybody's things and taking their stuff, and I'm just, it's not me, it's not very convenient. Or the others are being oppressed. Then I would let go of the reins and throw it on its back. And I would give one of them the cup, saying, treat this affair now as I have treated it in the past. And that your world is not greater to me than the sneeze of a goat. So this having this position of power was for one reason only. It's to protect the oppressed and to prevent oppression. This is his main reason for seizing power. Meaning this, this is the reason for the imams standing and insisting and fighting and preaching and talking about taking this position. It's not for themselves. They didn't care. All the other people, they're trying to get there to get money and this and that, the other, and position and praise. The imams didn't care about it. They said that the reason that, and this is also for us, that's when we begin. The reason we aid this, the reason we defend the imam, the reason sometimes we take responsibility in the community is not so that we can get, well, this person is. No, to prevent this oppression from going on and to make sure justice happens. So now, let's take a minute to go to Karbala and put herself on that terrible day with Imam Husayn. Now, as this day went on, and the Imam had been betrayed, and the Imam had been oppressed, And he had been abandoned even though he was standing up for justice. He was standing up for the rights of other than himself. He was trying to help the Mormon community. He was there with his friends, and all his friends had been slowly but surely had been eliminated. And now it was just down to his family. And his son Ali Akbar came forward and said, "Oh, Father, do you give me permission to go and to fight into the battle?" Now, normally the Imam, whenever one of his friends would try to come and would fight, the Imam would make excuses for them. No, you don't have to fight because of this reason. No, you don't have to fight because you're old. No, you don't have to fight because you're weak. No, you don't have to fight because you're sick. However, when Ali Akbar asked, he gave permission right away. And we have to look and see what type of son was Ali Akbar. He was the one who was closest to the Prophet in behavior. He was closest to the Prophet in look. He was closest to the Prophet even in his voice. And Imam Husayn loved his son. He loved his son so dearly. Remember now, this is Imam Husayn that he no longer has Imam Ali. He no longer has his mother Fatima. He no longer has his brother Hassan. This is the last piece of Rasulullah that he had with him. Whenever he wished to miss the Prophet, he used to look at Ali. He cared so much about him. He was such a great person. He was so nice. He was kind to me. He was helpful. And the was a perfect son. And he said, okay, without giving him any sort of pushback. Then he said, please go and say goodbye to your aunts. And the women that they saw him come, it took him a very long time to come back. He on the same way that they were holding on to him and they were hugging him and they were kissing him and they were saying, we can't live without you. And finally, he got free from the women and he got his horse and he rode into battle. Imam began calling out, Allah, وآل إبراهيم وآل فرعون وآل ذرية بعضهم من بعض والله سميع عليم. And I began calling out, Ali ibn Husayn ibn Ali. Yeah, he was back. نحن وبيت الله أولى من أبيه. I am Ali ibn Husayn ibn Ali. We, by the house of Allah, are closer to the Prophet. And even though he was hungry, and even though he was thirsty, he charged out. And he began to fight bravely. And these people were people who they could see how it was my neighbor on. And he hit their lines. It shook the lines. He began killing their best fighters and they began to run and flee to try to get out the way of him. They would turn and they would try to fight and they would face the sword of Imam and soldier after soldier was being killed. Imam Akbar fought for a long time and he fought and he began to get a little bit tired and he began to feel so thirsty. He couldn't fight anymore, so he turned and he came back to his father and he said, how did I go kill myself? Very good. He said, oh my father, I wanted to live fight again, but I'm thirsty and my hand is getting heavy. Do you have some sort of water? He said, no, I don't have any water. He said, you can suck with my tongue. And maybe there's some water. fighting again. And the same thing happened. The enemies fled from around him, and finally, one evil person, he said, may the sins of the Arabs be on me if he passes through here. But he knew better than to face him when he came. So he rose from behind and he speared him. And Ali screamed out, oh my God. Oh my God. And he fell from the horse ran into the enemy. And now these same people who had been afraid, these same people who had been running, these same people who were scared now that Ali had no weapons and he was being affected by the worst, they became aggressive and they began to attack him. Then once you had swords, hit him with swords, once you had spears, hit him with spears, once you had sticks, hit him with sticks, the ones that didn't have weapons, they hit him with shovels. And I was saying, came to try to get him. And by the time he had scattered the enemy, and he looked through what was left of it. It was a horrible scene. You didn't know what's time and what's fun. He tried to pick him up and he would fall back. When he would try to pick up one part, another part would fall back. Finally, he had the gavel in his mouth. That worst thing something about. He had to bring it back to stand up. And people today, hard. Yeah, say,